everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci of NLL Lacrosse Talk. I want to thank you for joining us. This is going to be one of the most interesting lacrosse shows that we've ever had. Everybody's going to get about 2 minutes because I think we have about 20 people in this thing, or have we lost a few? Maybe. Welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining us as usual is our co-host Gary Groob. Our guests today are Michelle Boyer, founding member of Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network, and Leslie Hawke, Mykenzie superstar Shymko. She didn't ask to do that. Everybody else did. Nicole, Howie as well. Ladies, I know we're having some trouble hanging on to a few of you. Whoever's not here, we're hoping they'll come back. But for those of you that are here, for now, thank you for being on. And those that come back in, it's going to be a pleasure talking to you, I know. So the first question we always ask everybody who's involved in lacrosse is what brought you to lacrosse? Let's start beside Gary. You can see where you are.
That would be me.
That's correct.
Actually, just a high school friend said there was a team starting up in my hometown of Port Coquitlam, and went to the first practice, fell in love with it. I was early teens. Of course, it was box lacrosse. There was no field back then. And it just kind of stuck. And I played a couple of years in my hometown, and then there weren't any senior level teams after that. So I moved into Burnaby and ended up playing for the fairly well-known Kirby Clipettes, coached by none other than Hall of Famer Dave Evans. And the rest is kind of history. Stuck with the game, got into field, and now I'm coming back to box to help grow the game around the world for women everywhere.
It's amazing how infectious the game is. You know, people like yourself, they get in, and even if they leave, it's only temporarily, and they come back again. And it sounds like that's what happened with you. What is the draw about lacrosse that keeps you engaged?
Honestly, from the get-go, the whole idea of putting on a suit of armor and going out and playing a sport, I'd never experienced anything like that. My brothers got to play, and I always thought it was pretty cool. And I, since that time, I've talked to a lot of players, as young as, 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to players in their 50s, 60s. They love the contact, and I did too. I'm a smaller person, and I could go out on the floor and feel a bit like a gladiator. And it just became in my blood, and I've discovered there's a lot of other women around the world who feel the same way about the game.
Absolutely. We have a couple here, and we have one missing, but and if I get the name wrong, I apologize firsthand. How about, let's see, Leslie Hawke? She's not.
So I'm a little bit opposite of Michelle. I started in the field game. I currently reside in Alberta, Canada, but I am originally from Ontario, Canada, and we started with field in high school. So the draw was, we played basketball and volleyball, and then I had a coach who is well known in the lacrosse community, Roxanne Curtis, who said, "Hey, I'm starting up a field lacrosse team. Do you want to play soccer or do you want to come play lacrosse?" And I was like, "Well, I'm playing soccer, so I guess I'll come out and try this game." And, as soon as I started playing in high school, I was hooked. And, that led me into the provincial team and then the national team and into coaching. And then moving to Alberta, box lacrosse is quite heavy out here, more so than field. So I sort of quickly got involved in the box game in Alberta, and the rest is history. I've just been, like Michelle, hooked with the game. And I too really do like the contact part. I'm getting up there in age, but I am still playing, and that is one of the draws to the game. And so it's just one of those things that as soon as you start it, you just don't want to give it up.
What's it like being in a community now? You went from one where lacrosse was very steeped in the world, and now you're in the world, in Canadian world anyway, and now you're in a place where it's not as well known as it is in other places.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a big startup, right? So coming out to Alberta, I was starting up the field program basically from from scratch, if you will. But then, having a community that's already sort of, set is really neat too, because you kind of get to bring the different aspects of each game over to the other. And, it's really cool to get girls, trying the other side of things. And so it's really cool to have a community that's already set and already doing great things. And then, you just meet new people and you further your career with it. And this is kind of how I ended up here. So
Well, one left. I hope it's Mykenzie. Otherwise, I'll have to use another name.
Yeah. Superstar Mykenzie.
Yeah, superstar. Sorry, I forgot that the second time. Oh, tell us how you started, Mykenzie.
So my brother was kind of my biggest guy I look up to. He started playing, and then I watched him play, saw how aggressive, how fast the sport was. I was playing baseball at the time. I quit baseball to play lacrosse, which was the best decision I've ever made. In Saskatchewan, we don't have much field, so I've always played box. I've played with men since for 9 years now. Started when I was 7. It's been really awesome, but the best part is it's starting to develop more with women's and box. Still not field as much. We're trying. But yeah, I had the opportunity to be the captain of Team Sass the last 2 years for the first ever women's team, which has been the best ever. And it's just really great. Some of the girls I play with we all go and play with Michelle, and we went to Prague together. There's 3 of us. So it's just a really great opportunity for us because we don't got a lot going on up here. So yeah.
I think I heard you say something about liking the aggressive nature of the game. Is that what keeps you interested?
Yeah, I love the aggression of lacrosse. I was always such a defensive player, and playing with guys, you gotta stay on your toes. You gotta stay. I love it. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's all good.
Yeah, the aggressive aspect of lacrosse is what keeps me going. I love how fast it is, how you're always moving. All my friends come and watch my games, and they're so impressed with me. They're like, I don't know how you do it. It's so fun. Yeah,
it sounds like
you touched on a topic there in which Michelle and I have talked a lot about over the years, and that's playing on all male teams because there aren't many female teams. Yeah. And I have a feeling this is really where we start with Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network. Am I right, Michelle?
Yeah, the sport I started playing, as I said, in my teens. So, not to out my age or anything, but it was, 50 years plus ago. And it's, the women's game hasn't really grown that much. And it really is because of the lack of opportunities for girls to play beyond a certain age or even play at all on girls and women's teams. So the Global Network really is looking to expand the game globally, but to expand opportunities. So, there's going to be 10 women's box lacrosse teams at the upcoming World Championships this September in Utica, New York. It's a huge sign that the game is growing outside of North America. So we'll have the usual suspects, Canada, the US, the Haudenosaunee, but outside of North America, I mean, who would have thought, a couple of years back, the Hong Kong is going to show up and England and other countries from Europe. It's Australia is coming up for the World Championships. So we're really pushing, beyond 2024 and hopefully double those numbers in 2028, and we'll see what happens. But we're all about elevating the profile of the sport and being all inclusive and joining women from all over the country together on touring teams so we can continue to sort of evangelize the sport of box lacrosse.
I'm hearing from you one of the counters to the situation of finding enough women to put together a team. I'm hearing maybe the sixes might be an interesting concept for women.
Well, sixes, of course, if you look at the box game and the sixes game, what do we see? I don't think it's surprising to people that you're kind of mashed up the field game and the box game and, called it sixes. And it's a great concept. It's like rugby sevens. It makes the game faster, more goal scoring, more excitement for the fans. But, if you want the true, pure form of the game, in my opinion, the indoor game, box lacrosse, it's the fastest game on 2 feet. And I think you add all that contact for women that have played a lot of sports where they're never allowed to touch anybody, like field lacrosse. There's a huge draw to that, and other women in the world are looking at the sport as something they want to get into because they're just looking for something different, something where they can really get out there and hit a few people and get hit and just play a really interesting brand of lacrosse.
Yeah, it's about parking interest and around the world and something like that. Gary and I always talk about the Olympics and how that could create a situation where a lot of people who've never seen lacrosse get a chance to see it. So it's important for women as well, for lacrosse period, to be able to, show what they can do and what they have.
Mm-hmm.
Gary?
Equipment, Michelle.
What's that?
Of course, equipment, and of course some of the differences and the needs. Is there some?
Oh shoot! Gary never has any problems with the internet, and he's been telling me how much he's been looking forward to the show because of all these great athletes we have on today, all these great lacrosse.
There he is.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Rogers.
You're welcome.
They always come in on the opportune time. Anyways, we're talking about equipment and the needs being different than males. Do you have companies now to manufacture equipment for women, especially for box?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's not for lack of effort, but so far there's been a few nibbles of interest wanting to develop specific equipment for men, and then others that say, well, you can just wear your brother's equipment or your dad's equipment. And to that I say, would you say to a young boy coming into box for the first time, just wear your sister's equipment? So, girls have different areas of the body that need protecting, and they need equipment that fits properly. And the urgency, to have women's specific equipment is here and now with a world championship coming up. And I'm going to start this, but I want to hand it over to Mykenzie, who's been out there securing equipment deals everywhere and getting it off to her sisters over in Europe and other places. But we are one of our things we try to do is get equipment together and get it to women in other countries that just don't have access. Either they just can't get proper equipment, proper fitted equipment, or it can't afford it. It's so expensive. So we have Mykenzie, one of our hardest working ambassadors in Saskatchewan, and she and her mom and dad have been working hard to get us equipment, and we're taking it off to different countries and spreading the equipment, spreading the love, so to speak.
Mykenzie, please
talk a little bit about your experiences and all the equipment we've taken abroad.
Yeah, so right before we left for Prague, well, not right before, a few months, we started asking for donations, getting sponsors, doing fundraisers. So we raised about $10,000-$15,000 worth of equipment. We got together. We sent 14 bags over altogether to bring to the She-Box tournament, and we set up a little booth, and we helped out with a lot of. It was to bring over for Poland, for Hong Kong, for Germany, all of them who don't really have the shops and all that kind of stuff. So we brought as much as we could over, and it was helpful, not even just for them setting up clinics. Hong Kong's equipment got a little bit lost, so we helped out. We helped out with them for the tournament, got them jerseys. So it makes me feel good, and hopefully it helps them and helping them grow the game, because it would suck that they couldn't play because of equipment. It's not fair. So
that was the first thing you brought up when we met up in Prague was the equipment and the Hong Kong debacle and all that. By the way, those were some fantastic jerseys.
Those are from Frank.
Trying to get them because it didn't even look like they were going to make it for this tournament.
Yeah, those we got most of the jerseys. A lot of the jerseys mostly were from Frank, coach in Shymko in Ontario. So he was very awesome with helping me out with donations and very supportive with the whole motion of everything going through. So yeah, we had a lot of great people, a lot of great stuff, and a lot of supporters with the whole movement.
It's important that I guess to do that because it helps inspire those that are there that are already wanting to play lacrosse, feeling much more comfortable with by association than everybody who's on the outside of that group knows that it's possible that they could play in conditions that I think everybody's entitled to play, which is safely.
Yeah, for sure. And even with like Australia, we're sending over like different size chest protectors. So just for them to sample even, and then we're going to try and get some out to them because they also don't have the supplies that they need. So we're just trying to do as much as we can to grow the sport.
I think also, but by virtue of the fact that you send them there, there's always somebody that's looking for an opportunity to start a business or make some money. They make equipment, other kinds of equipment that would obviously give an opportunity for them to see how it's made. Because I think it's easier if you actually have equipment in your hand to know what it'll take to make it, and you might be able to inspire companies to do it, to make this stuff. It's not. I don't think hockey equipment, soccer equipment, all the equipment that happens. There's some similarities. The differences are between men and women and what they need to be safe.
I remember the one person saying to me, they can just wear their brother's equipment, and I said, the reverse, the story I just told, and there's this other piece of protective equipment that boys wear, and we wouldn't tell them to just like shove cardboard, down their shorts or anything. So, if you think women, and I hear this all the time, we have anatomical differences and shorter arms, narrower shoulders. When it even comes to uniforms, shrink it and pink it doesn't fit anymore. It really doesn't fit. We got girls playing in leagues and they got men's size shorts that hang down below their knees and look like board shorts or something. So, there's a big market. Keep trying to convince the Warriors and other companies out there, Epic and others, there is a growing need, and it's not going away. The need is going to keep continuing. While we only have 10 women's teams coming to the World Championships, there were 6 other countries ready to jump in if possible to get into the Worlds. Sadly, got left behind. But, there's 16 teams in the world that are actively playing women's box lacrosse right now in some way, shape, or form. And everybody needs equipment, and, it's going to keep growing.
Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Sorry for technical difficulties.
No worries. Just before we get rolling with more, we've had everybody explain how they got into lacrosse. How did you pick up a stick?
So I was kind of born into it. My dad has always been involved with lacrosse, coaching, playing. So I grew up always going to box lacrosse games. And then I kind of spoke up and I was like, I want to try. But there was no box lacrosse. So I did try field. Not the biggest fan. Sorry, Leslie. But when I was, I want to say about 13, we started a box lacrosse program here. And the rest is history. I've been playing for 17, 18 years now.
What keeps you in it?
Honestly, the friendships, the competitiveness, honestly, just growing. Like, I was listening to like the Prague stories, but it's just like unreal how it was just a weekend and it became like we were like a family by the end of it. So I think that's like a huge aspect, is like you just grow those bonds with people, and that's probably my favorite part of it all.
But you're selling yourself short. You're a goalie for all those years, but you've also been a coach for a number of years, the ref for a number of years. So you're pretty well rounded in this game. Dad coach.
Yeah, I've been coaching for a number of years. Reffing, it got a little tough, so I don't necessarily do that anymore. I do want to get back into it, but yeah, I just
Wait a second. Being a ref is rougher than being a player? Is that what you're telling me?
When you're a female, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no other information. Yours is all I got. Yeah.
By the way, guys, I love the shirts. I love the shirts. Yes,
Hey.
I love all of them. I love the different styles, the different colors, and you're gonna have to let everybody know how to get them from you too,
Absolutely.
because they are smoking. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michelle, I want to talk. We're seeing the so to speak the finished product of the global network at full speed now, but getting it off the ground. What was the pitch to World Lacrosse IOC, because you're recognized with both of them now? How did you get this thing moving?
Well, it was something that my co-founder and I concocted before we rolled it out officially 16 months ago, I guess. Both of us love box lacrosse. We both played competitively at the international level in field lacrosse, but both wanted to circle back. We realized that box lacrosse was kind of the poor cousin, wasn't getting much attention. So we did actually apply to be an affiliate member with World Lacrosse at one point, and that it's just sort of on hold right now. But we really did take a look at the landscape. We could see sixes, taking off, the push for the Olympics, and not a lot of attention being paid to women's box. And so we wanted to really get women's box front and center on the global stage, and we rolled out the global network. And first thing we did was start an ambassador program. One of the people who really encouraged me in that area was Sue Redfern, president of World Lacrosse. She liked the idea. She said, I think that's something you should pursue. So I'd seen it in other sports, Gary and Frank, and it's something we've had success with. I mean, the people you're looking at on the screen are all global network ambassadors. We, in short order, had over 120 applicants, some men as well, applying to be global network ambassadors. We're in 14 countries in the world, and we're continuing to spread. So in a short period of time, I feel like we've accomplished quite a bit. We're heading out on our third touring team experience this coming August at the US Box Nationals. And we have plans for Prague next year. I think we've already booked the hotel that we all stayed in together in the spring, and looking Southern Hemisphere to possibly Australia in the very near future. So it's been like almost a straight up trajectory, but we're having a lot of fun. We call it the sisterhood, and I think what Nicole said. The experience in Prague is a good example of literally women flying in from 5 different countries, meeting in Prague, and leaving as sisters and lifelong friends.
How do you mitigate the challenge in non-hockey countries? Because venues matter, right, for box lacrosse?
Well, you have to get creative. It doesn't always have to be in a box, but we're definitely seeing in Australia and England, they're building facilities. They're using, tennis facilities that are covered in the winter. Some countries are playing in sports courts. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to have the perfect space, but get sticks in hands, get them in helmets, and get them in gloves, and let them try it out. And those things will come over time, I think, with more support from national governing bodies. And I know World Lacrosse has grant money available as well. So if you are out there and you're watching this and you're saying, hey, how do we get this up and running? World Lacrosse actually has earmarked money for women's box lacrosse and growth and development of the game on a global scale.
That's really good to know.
Yeah, I want to get back to the Prague She-Box thing again. I want to get 3 different perspectives of it. I want to get, of course, founder. I want to get coaching, and I want to get players' perspectives of how this She-Box worked, because this was really the big foray. This was the trial balloon, if you will, before the Worlds, before the Olympics down the road. But to see how we could all get it together and how well it would work. I'll start with you, Michelle. The Prague experience.
Well, I went to Prague last year. Brian Widmer, who runs the tournament, he was on the World Lacrosse Women's Box Lacrosse Working Group with me a couple of years back. Kept saying, Michelle, you got to come to Prague. Ours is the best tournament in Europe. And so we took the team last year. It was a huge undertaking. And I have to thank Mykencie's mom, Carla, who is our team manager now officially, couldn't have done it without her. To bring that size of a group of people from all over the world to one place, it's quite something to take on, but it's worth the effort when you, as I said, you have players that meet women from other countries. One of the things we say to players that play for us is, you're not just showing up to play in a tournament or play some games. You're showing up to make connections and share ideas, and then walk away from that tournament and help spread the game around the globe. So it's there's a lot of reasons why we do these things, but an amazing experience. And one of the coolest things was to have three amazing women, one sitting right underneath me, as coaches at Shymko.
Let's hear from you from the coaching perspective once these things actually started taking place.
Oh, it was such a ride. I honestly, I would say is probably one of the biggest highlights of my coaching career. Sort of mirror what everyone else has said. We literally flew in. I think Michelle was probably the only one that I actually knew per se. And then going in and meeting all of these fabulous players from all over the place. And it was just an instant connection. And, I felt just as much as, I tried to make the players feel like they were just, a cohesive group, that we were going to do some amazing things together. They made me feel the same. And, our coaching staff was like instantaneously, we connected as well. And it sort of had before we even got to Prague, obviously virtually, but it was just really neat how it came together. And it was just so easy to coach. Like I literally got to stand there and just watch these amazing women do incredible things. And, I'd have my little tidbits here and there, but really and truly, they did the job, and it was amazing. And they did such a great job. And like I always say, like even getting to coach players like Erica Evans, like that is something I probably will never get to do again in my entire life. And so like highlight of my career for sure. And just getting to meet all of these amazing women, who like Nicole said, we're lifelong friends now.
Right. Nicole, let's get your perspective playing.
So honestly, going into that, I only knew the two other coaches. So we walked in, not gonna lie, I was a little nervous. Walked into our hotel room. Leslie was in there. She literally just comes and gives us the biggest hugs. I'm like, oh, hi. Okay, this is how it's going to be. But then the first game came along, though. Like, it seemed like we were playing for years together. Like, we all, like everyone's saying, like we just clicked and we understood what each other needed. And it was unreal. It's kind of funny though, watching like how we all play, because some of the lingo that we can use in like Ontario, they don't use in England. So we'll say something and they're like, sorry, what was that? Like, I have no idea what you just said. So it's like, it's really cool to see like how different lacrosse is in different places. But like I said before, it's unreal of the relationships that were made at the end of the day.
Right. Mykenzie, your perspective.
Yeah, it was just super eye-opening, like especially coming, like it was my second year at Shymko, and I knew a few of the girls. I'd seen them around at nationals in Regina and Saskatchewan, and I've played with a few of them in Vancouver. So I had a little bit more connections with some of the girls coming straight through. So I was still super nervous, but it was just super empowering too to have just such a strong coach team with all women on the bench. It was just it was inspiring, and there was just a lot of girls to look up to at that tournament. Like all of the girls, it's just so amazing to see that we all can come together in Prague, which is so far from Canada, and even just all the girls from Germany and England and all that was so amazing to just see them all come together. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of girls to look up to at that tournament.
Yeah, not only look up to, but to basically bond, because you all have the same challenges to be the best player you can be. Mm-hmm. And that's why people like Michelle are so important.
Yeah,
absolutely. Also, taking a look at the place where you played in Prague, in Radicin, at that field, really is a good blueprint for a lot of the countries who don't have these facilities on what they can build with really not a lot of materials. And, you know, it answers that question of how do we get a lot of countries to play? My question to you, Michelle, is how do we get them to know that this is available?
The
How do we get
sport.
this information out?
Well, we of course we have 3 platforms. So we're on social media on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, and of course Facebook. We also have our website, Women's Box Across Global Network.com. And what we do is try to encourage our ambassadors also to use all their platforms. That's one of the key aspects of being an ambassador, is to use individual platforms to continue to spread the word, like big tentacles going out everywhere. And you know, it was one of the key barriers that women cited a number of years ago. We sent a survey out via World Lacrosse to literally all of the lacrosse playing countries in the world at the time, and we wanted to know if women wanted to play box lacrosse or come back to the game, and if they were not able to access the game, what were the barriers? And one of the key barriers that women cited was this lack of information. So when Kath Candid and I talked about some of the things we wanted to do with the global network, the main thing was we need to spread the word. We need to elevate the profile of the game. And so that's been one of our key tasks, is literally just get out there all over the globe, spread the word, have our ambassadors help us with that so that we can continue to grow the game. And it's been working really well. And ambassadors connect with other ambassadors in other countries. And, you know, Mykencie's been sending off equipment everywhere. I had one of the Global Network board members stay with me and play in our Women's Winter League this past January. She took a bunch of equipment back to England. We had a player from Switzerland who joined us in Prague. She took a bunch of equipment back to Switzerland, where they're starting the programs there. So yeah, it's you know, it really does take an entire, you know, network of women to continue to grow the game. What we'd love to see, Gary, is national governing bodies recognizing that we have all of these sort of worker bees like in their midst that they could tap to help us, you know, grow the game. We're doing come and try clinics all over the place. So, but we could certainly use help from national governing bodies and even World Lacrosse to continue to do that work. We're a not-for-profit. We don't have a huge bank account. A lot of us pay a lot of this, you know, things out of our own pocket. So we do have a donation page on our website. So all those things help, and we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, with or without help. We as a group are going to continue to do what we're doing.
You talked about the government, you talked about people like that. What are some of can you give us more specifics on the kind of messages you feel that need to go out there that are really important, and how do they need to land, for example, with the government and other organizations that could help in basically creating an atmosphere where the game, it's just about finding people to play, not just finding equipment, not just finding venues, that kind of thing?
Well, you know, in a lot of countries, especially like smaller ones, like, well, let's use Czechoslovakia or Czech as an example. You know, they run that tournament every year. They don't have a women's team. And, you know, when you talk to Brian and Frankiszek Klima, who's with the European Lacrosse Federation, they'll say, well, we have too small of a player pool of field players. And we've heard that from other countries. And to that we say, forget the field players, get your rugby players, your women's rugby players, your ice hockey players, women that are a little rough and tumble that, you know, may want to play another sport where they get to put on, you know, some equipment and go out there and, you know, play a physical game. So that's what we're encouraging other national governing bodies to do, is don't look at that tiny little gene pool, go outside of there. And I mean, that's what we've always done in this sport too, is we're drawing women from other sports, not just field lacrosse. We're drawing them from other sports as well. And yeah, I think that's, I guess, kind of take the blinders off and spread the word around and encourage other women to try it out.
This is an intentional pun, thinking outside the box.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm
Now
sorry.
we're finally getting more places for women to play at advanced levels as well. The ALL, both East and West, the MSL have leagues going on now as well. Speak to us to that and where we need to go to keep continuing growing.
I'll answer that, or any of the girls can answer, because I mean, Leslie's in Alberta and Nicole's in Ontario. Mykenzie, of course, has her own opinions about how to grow the game, coming from Saskatchewan, where they're just really, I mean, who did you just play a game with the other night, Mykenzie? Your junior B team, your men's team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's difficult in some areas to get the women's game growing, but the WMSL in Ontario is a growing league. The ALL, the Arena Lacrosse League for women back east and in the Vancouver area, are growing rapidly. The only thing actually that keeps some of those leagues from growing is field time. So again, I think it's a matter of member associations and provincial governing bodies helping in the efforts to free up, field time for women that want to play the game. The IOC and World Lacrosse talk about gender equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and I think it's time we put those words into action. And women have really truly been held out of the sport of box lacrosse for a lot of years.
Absolutely.
So I think you have to look at, we're still behind the start line. The men are already well into the race, and you've got leagues upon leagues, professional level. Men are going into their 6th world championship, and we're coming up on number 1. So I think that there's a lot of work could be done. A little more effort could be made, and equity really means, like, sometimes you have to do more to help the group over here that's still behind the start line. So I put that out to member associations, provincial organizations, national governing bodies, and World Lacrosse, that we could use a little more help, because I mean, the global network, we're pretty tiny and we're doing our best, but we could help with some of that heavy lifting.
In the world, you have 10 teams in there, right? There's at least 13 or 14 teams that are viable to make a play for a championship. So shouldn't we start a little bit bigger if we have that kind of equity, so to speak, with players?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret. There's women's teams that could have probably been ready for the World Championships. Japan's probably the strongest example. Sadly, some of the teams not coming, their men's teams are coming. So I guess that's the other aspect of it, Gary, is in countries. I mean, this is my opinion, but I think if you have a men's program up and running and you've gone to one or more World Championships, I truly believe that there should be some pressure on those countries to assist with getting the women's program up and running. I wish everybody else felt that way, but I think it should be some kind of a requirement. If you've been, you come into your 6th World Championship and you've never made, as a national governing body, never made any effort to help the women's side of the game, I think it's time.
Yeah. Now, Les, we've talked about East and West with the ALL and what they've done. Center of the country, Alberta. Do we have anything on the horizon? Because there's a lot of women who need to get into these kind of organizations.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I know, again, just speaking from for the Alberta part, we do have a women's league. We have a fairly new program called Fury, which is strictly for girls. And then they can move into the junior program, which is what I coach. And now we are slowly bringing back our senior league, which we did have for many years. Unfortunately, COVID, like all things, it killed that. So we are slowly getting back there. But to what Michelle said too, and just with my Lacrosse Canada hat on, this being the first international worlds, even Canada, I feel like we're a little bit behind the ball too, because, with this being the first, we automatically, when we had tryouts, had them in the East and in the West. And that deterred a lot of women from going to try out from say Saskatchewan or Alberta or Manitoba because of the travel fees on top of trying out and things like that. So I really feel as a whole, even for Canada, there's a lot of things that we need to figure out as we go here. And with this being the first one, it's great. That's a huge step. But as we move through this, hopefully we'll be able to figure out those little intricacies that are, maybe deterring some women from trying out because, as with Mykenzie, I mean, even though Saskatchewan is still, growing, Ontario has a great, box community, as well as obviously BC. But we do have a lot of strong players in central Canada, and, it's kind of crummy that some of them, just decide, well, I can't afford it. I can't, whatever. So, it deters them from trying out. And so I know that that's been a big frustration. And, being the athlete director for Lacrosse Canada, that those are some of the things that I'm hearing is some of the deterrents that are getting people out there. So the more we can build our leagues and the more, we say like, hey, come out to Alberta for a tryout, come out to Saskatchewan, that'll allow, it to be in the limelight and the girls to be able to go out and try out for the national team.
If I can add the fact that with all the success, for example, college women's basketball, hockey, soccer, all these sports that women have lagged behind, in some cases, especially in college women's basketball, they've started to catch up and in some cases appear to be passing men. That opportunity, I think, is in the future. And I appreciate the hard work you guys do, but I just want you to know you have my belief that you're on the cusp of it. It's just a question, and this is the hard part for people like you, Michelle, and Les, being prepared for that moment when it does.
There's no arguing that this sport is underserved, under-resourced, and even thanks to you guys, I think this is the third time I've been on the show, and it's exposure like this. And if you look at women's college basketball, they never got the prime times. They got the crappy arenas, out in the middle of nowhere. Well, and people say, oh, nobody watches women's sports. It's like, well, first off, you got to figure out how to watch it. And, so I mean, exposure like this is what's important. I've had people come up to me. I was a keynote speaker at the tournament we're heading down to in August. Shaden Santos with US Boxer asked me to come down, and he said, just tell him your story. So I did. And I had people come up to me afterwards and say, well, I never even knew girls played box lacrosse, and that was in a big lacrosse community with hundreds of players and teams and everything. So, this helps get the word out. And if anybody wants any information about teams, on our website, we have a whole resource on teams and clubs and how to get involved in practically every country out there that is involved in lacrosse. So, go to our website, Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network, check out what's out there. And if all else fails, just email me. It's easy to catch me. I'm info@Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network. And I'm happy to help.
Right. Because come Olympic time, when you get another 280 countries looking at both men and women's lacrosse, whether we want it or not, the boom is going to happen. And it's about getting prepared now for that and getting all of our ducks in a row. Especially, I believe what you said, Les, regional tryouts, because we really don't have a true national team in Canada, do we? If we're only taking from the East and from the West. If we're missing out.
I don't want to get myself in trouble, but no.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But regional tryouts.
I might. Can I be the devil's advocate? I want to get her in trouble. No, just kidding. You know what they say about press.
She does that by herself just fine.
I'm sure we can do it like a tryout without having to travel 4 hours and 3 different hotels to make a team. Am I correct, Mykenzie?
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk a little bit while I've got you about the Saskatchewan area. And I know since the rush came to town, it basically went from no programs male-wise to lots. How about female-wise? Is there anything on the go now? I know you're still playing with the male teams, but is there anything going towards getting female teams going there?
So 2 years ago is when the women's program started up. We brought a team to Canada Games in Niagara Falls. we didn't place the best, but it was our first ever team, which was just such an awesome opportunity. By far, one of my favorite tournaments I've ever been to. We've went to nationals last year. We brought our team to Phoenix. So we are developing. We did lose our U17 team this year. We have a U22 team. It's just we're scraping for players over here, but we're making it work, making the best out of the situations. If you got to play up or you got to play down, as long as you get to play, it's kind of a situation where you got to take what you get. And that's what I've been doing. I've been taking as many opportunities as I can get, with going and training in Vancouver with Megan Kinna, or playing for the ALL for a few games. And just Global Network has gave me so many opportunities that Saskatchewan hasn't been able to provide yet, which, as me coming back as an ambassador and bringing it to the girls in my community, I like to be able to share my knowledge and my experiences with them. So hopefully one day we can grow more teams and have a lot more girls join. I've also been going to elementary schools all around Moose Jaw, which is where I live. I've went to 8 so far. I've reached a lot of kids that would love to join lacrosse, just didn't know what it was, like have seen it, but have never known they could play. A lot of girls are just, it's really awesome when I teach them the basics, play some games with them, and then at the end of class, they come up and just say that they would love to play lacrosse, and it's so much fun. So just being able to reach out to kids like that is something that makes it all worth it.
Right. And Nicole, you're in Ontario, so there is a lot of programs. What's going on, and how are we helping to build?
Honestly, you can kind of see it going downhill, like it did like 2 years ago, and now it's finally starting to come up, which is awesome. It all starts the little itty bitties, like the little kids that like a lot of the older ones now don't really want to play anymore. Like I am coaching in Arthur, Ontario, and we only have a U22 team, and it's hard to find girls that are the U17, like all of the younger age groups. But KW, where I came from, like they have all of the age groups possible. And then where I play, like the women's lacrosse, we grew a lot as well, because we're fortunate enough to use the minor tournaments to have showcases so that they understand that there is still more to lacrosse than just minor lacrosse. So we actually did gain 2 new teams this year, Kingston and Peterborough, which is awesome. We haven't really played too much yet, so I don't really know how they're going to be, but I'm sure they're going to be great. But it's honestly, I am truly thankful that we don't have to deal with, unfortunately, what Mykenzie has to deal with. And I've always had a place to go, but it's unreal watching it grow and being able to go to different zones in Ontario to kind of expand girls in box lacrosse. Because like what was said already, like if you talk to people, they don't know girls box lacrosse exists. So right. You just got to spread the word, and it seems to be working right now.
How helpful is it that to recognize that there are women out there? We don't live in a world anymore where girls wear pink because that's where they're supposed to, or play with dolls. How? Because I'm not a woman, so I don't know. You know what my question is, right? How easy is it, and how attractive is it for young girls or young women to play that aggressive game? I've heard it from you guys, but I mean, it's easy to pick a few, right? But how is it generally across the board? Is it something that helps to make it popular once these girls know that they have it in them to play this aggressive game and be aggressive?
I have a little story to tell on that note, Frank. So was at the NLL Warriors game one night. They were honoring builders in the game, women that built the game in the province. And there were a bunch of young girls there from the Penticton Lacrosse Club. And they were about maybe 9 or 10 years old. And we were up in the VIP, one of the rooms, and we brought all the young girls up. And I sat and talked to a bunch of them. And I said, what's the thing you love most about box lacrosse? and every one of them, the hitting, till the last one said, "Oh, and the friendships too." And so this idea that girls, should be dressing in pink and and all the rest of it. Sure, wear whatever you want, be whoever you want to be, and play box lacrosse. Because I think you see that with some of the some of the players put out there. They're coming in, doing like the ramp thing into the changing room with their beautiful outfits and hair and makeup, and then they're out there like creaming each other in the game. So you can, it doesn't matter who you are, you can play the game, and you can go off to ballet or ice hockey afterwards. You can be all those things.
The undertone of what I was, I guess, suggesting or inquiring about is the acceptability of that kind of behavior within the world of women. I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't know.
I think it's a huge attractive piece. And honestly, sitting here with my legs completely bruised up and things like that, I feel like the older you get in the game, the more people like to hit, and especially women. And I find that women are a lot more aggressive than men in the game because it's like, oh my gosh, this is a game that I can actually hit people. And sometimes it goes to that next level, right? But and again, like for me, from being with a field and box background, that's often box players come into our field, go, what, I can't hit? Like, and they're like, I don't know if this is for me. Right. And like, they want to go back to box and take it on. And so I think it's a huge attractive piece for players, because they're like, this is so awesome. And then when you get out there and you just feel like invincible, being able to have that contact. Right. And so I think it's a lot of people like that part of the game for sure.
Because that question, empowering. Yeah, and that question is very important as far as developing people who are willing to watch the game, who will be attracted to it, so that they know that it's not much different than the men play. I know you have narrower shoulders. I know you have shorter arms. You've expressed that. But that doesn't mean you don't have the same kind of competitive edge. Sorry. So it doesn't mean you don't have that competitive edge. And I think that's the part that makes this sport so popular, is that competitiveness.
There's some social media that came out of a team down in Texas recently, Frank, and it had a little girl. She's got the double bicep pose. She's got her little arm pads on, and it says, "Meet so-and-so. She's fierce, she's strong, and she's brave. And her new sport is box lacrosse." And I say to people all the time, isn't that what we want for our little girls, to be fierce and brave and strong? Because they're going to need to be those things in the big world. So I say, get them into box lacrosse. It's empowering. It's fun. The girls themselves love it. There's no
like our new poster child too. Huh?
Yeah.
Guys, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for taking your time to discuss this and to bring more eyes to seeing the global network, which is what you guys have done. And it's fantastic. And I can't wait to see Utica in September, and I certainly can't wait to see Prague again next year in the She-Box tournament, and looking forward to seeing all of you guys in person.
Yeah, we're going to have a booth at World Championships, Gary, the Global Network. We've been invited to come, so come and see us at our booth at the World Championships. Say hello and pick up some merchandise and support the Global Network and women trying to get into the game everywhere.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for taking the time. I wish we had more time so that each of you could have more time to tell us about women's lacrosse and how important it is to you and how important it can be to others. So really, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, the exposure is awesome. Thank you so much.
Gary will send you the link, and then you can do your own postmortem.